I wanted to talk a little bit about my growth as a math educator throughout the course of the semester. Um, there are many things that are important to me in terms of mathematics education, but it's most important to me personally that the students are able to think mathematically and to make decisions. So for my 23 lesson, I really wanted that decision making to be a core component of the problem, not only just doing the computations to solve the problem, but really I wanted them to have to make decisions in order to have an answer, and then as a post-assessment, write about how they came to that answer. Um, over the course of the semester, there have been many things from our class discussions that I've taken into account, not only in my student teaching, but especially in my 23 lesson. I believe that I've grown in terms of being able to facilitate math discussions, and I've tried to develop a better sense of wait time. Math seems to be one of those parts throughout the day during my student teaching where students especially have a hard time having that wait time. If a student doesn't know an answer immediately, they may interject. And that happens frequently with certain students who are very, very strong in that. So in terms of my 23 lesson, I definitely have a couple of those students who are very gifted at math, and things come to them very quickly. So I wanted to be able to facilitate the discussion so that the lesson can still go smoothly, but that they would still have a chance to share their thoughts about the problem while also giving the students a chance to respond. My math lesson really tested their sense of quantity and number relationships. I presented certain things within the problem that forced them to have to compare and contrast, especially in terms of the number of tickets. The decision to put the tickets in bundles for the science museum was a very specific choice because I wanted them to see how many groups, how many sets of bundles would they need, how many bundles of 15 would they need in order to have the 60 tickets that they needed for the 66 group of students that were going on a field trip. This lesson also required the students to draw their own conclusions. It was something that was important to me. It's something I want to incorporate into my teaching in general, especially with math, is definitely requiring the students to make inferences and to draw their own conclusions about a problem, not just have them focus on getting an answer or solving that problem, but to also reach a conclusion and be able to explain how they reached that conclusion. Also, I wanted to include certain NCTM standards. That's something I'm continuing to work on as a teacher, something that I will probably still be working on years from now, but especially now as I'm starting out in terms of being a math educator, it's definitely important to me to incorporate those NCTM standards. There are a few that I wanted to include in this lesson, specifically the equivalence of fractions, decimals and percent. This particular problem also included ratio tables, but it was also a problem that I wanted them to work with decimals, I wanted them to work with percents, and I wanted them to have an understanding of those relationships between fractions, percents, and decimals. So as I continue to grow, I definitely want to become stronger at assessing students, assessing their comprehension of math concepts. Something new that I tried in this lesson was I included a post-assessment at the end where I had them do some writing, which they're not usually accustomed to doing in math class, but I know that on the PSSAs there are definitely portions of it that require them to be able to explain their process and their open-ended questions. So at the end of my lesson, I wanted them to go back and look at the work that they just did and to write a little bit about the process and the strategy that they used to solve the problem with their partner. There was one student in particular, I believe it's student 1, if you look at the student work page in the math section. She wrote extensively about her partner's process on actually more than what I was expecting to find. But she really took that part of the lesson and explained her thoughts and argued why she felt that the Science Museum was a better choice. And for me, it was really a new awakening for me to see that you can involve literacy in math in this way. Something that my pen mentor commented on when we had a debriefing was that she liked that I included this post-assessment where they had to write about their explanations, how I included a writing component, because that's not something that they always see an assessment they're quite accustomed to, but I definitely think it helped them to organize their thoughts and to really explain how they reached their answer. Another thing that I want to continue to work on with students is I want them to continue to work on real-world problems. It was really important to me in this lesson to present them with a real-world problem, because I think that it not only can help them solve it by being able to relate to it, but they definitely seemed even more eager, even more involved in the problem, because it was something that they could picture, something that they experience. So I think that having them work on these real world problems while also incorporating mathematical concepts from the core and using the PA, the Pennsylvania Assessment Anchors and NCTM standards, using all of these things and incorporating them into real world problems really helps students develop their mathematical ideas and to develop a sense of decision making in everyday problems. I definitely think that I've grown in my ability to teach strategies. In this lesson, the students really showed their ability to apply a strategy to a problem. Something specifically that I noticed about a couple of the students, it was they were in two pairs. One pair of students, they really looked at just one half of the problem first. They focused exclusively on the Science Museum. They went through all the cost, all the steps to finding the total cost of the museum, and they went line by line. And I noticed that after they did that, they then turned to the next museum and they did the same thing, and then they did a final comparison at the end. So I noticed that they had a specific strategy where they wanted to simply look at one museum first and look at all of the costs associated with it, and then to focus exclusively on the second museum and employ a strategy for that. There was another student in the other pair who at one point kind of broke away from her partner. This is an area where I still need to grow more, but I have trouble with students who sometimes don't work well in partners. In this particular lesson, it required them to work in pairs, but there was one student who really wanted to work on her own, and her partner really needed more time to work on the problem. So something that I want to continue to work on is continuing to work on facilitating these lessons, especially lessons where students are having to maybe work in pairs or work in groups, and they may not necessarily work in that way. Finally, I definitely wanted to build on what the students already knew, activate their prior knowledge from math class, and have them make connections. This is something that I will continue to do as a math educator. Something that I want to do is to always make sure that my students are making connections and seeing these connections, not only between one mathematical concept and one problem, but all the concepts that they're learning. It's really important to me that students not only make those connections between concepts, but also to the real world, because there is math everywhere, as we know. So that is a little bit about my term 3.